A lot of people are going to be listening to this, so they won't have the image in front of them. But behind you, it looks like you have a few rifles on the wall. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that, and maybe how that if how that relates to martial arts. So,
Oh man, shooting is a martial art. I don't give a damn what people say. See, like, so there are what's called five ranges of combat, right? It's
mhm.
just like one of those things. It's just a math problem that you need to solve, and whoever is able to maintain the range of combat that they're most effective in wins the fight. So, like, if you look at, for example, if you look at a guy like Michael Venom Page, he's able to win his fights not because of jiu-jitsu. He's able to win his fights because he's able to maintain the distance that he's most comfortable in, the range of combat. And so where other people might not be as proficient in handling that range, he's an expert in it, which is the equivalent of jujitsu, right? So the five ranges of combat are very simple. The first one most people leave out of the story, which is a shame because that's how every war is ever fought, which is projectile range, right? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to throw or drop bombs or shoot. We're not going to get close to each other. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to start throwing at things at each other, maybe whether they be bullets or bombs, right? Spears, arrows, doesn't matter. Then so being proficient in that range of combat is kind of important because if you're 30 feet away and have a gun and I have a gun and I'm a fucking moron and I go, oh yeah, I'm gonna come in there and beat your ass and I take three to the chest, guess what? He's a much more effective martial artist at that time because he was able to maintain the range of combat and be effective there.
Hmm.
So it's still combat. Then we move closer, you got like kicking range, right? So I can kick you, you can kick me, but punching each other is a little more difficult. Those would be like lead leg side kicks and lead leg round kicks, like longer range tools. Then you get a little closer, you have boxing range, right? I can punch you, you can punch me. Our punches are way more effective. High kicks aren't nearly as effective. You know, you're going to get a little closer. Kicking is just less effective. Punching is more effective. Then when you get a little closer, you have what's called trapping range, which is also where things like the clench take place. Overhooks, underhooks, takedowns, throws, all that stuff takes place in that range. And then finally you have grappling range, which is on the floor. We're both rolling around on the ground trying to figure out for who is going to get the dominant position. And so, but it all starts with those. It all
Hmm.
does, no matter what. I mean, you can pick up a rock, but you pick up your rock, I'm gonna pick up my gun. So, who has
Yeah,
the better projectile?
yeah, and I've had conversations before where I think anytime you're talking about guns with people, the emphasis is always on the tool, the gun itself, rather than
Mhm.
the purpose, which is defense,
Mhm.
self defense. And I feel like once you admit that self defense is necessary, that you need to learn how to defend yourself, you're opening yourself up to well, what is the tool you can count on the most in order to be able to defend yourself? And I think it was Jocko Willick who talked about. He's often asked, he's a Navy SEAL, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt, and he's often asked, what should I do, as far as self defense, should I learn Jiu Jitsu and all that, and um, he says, well, if we're being honest, handgun. You should probably have a handgun, especially if you're a smaller person, and because you can be, you could be a say a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but there's still the possibility that you can get blindsided or something like that, or somebody knows more than you, or something like that. I mean, I
Well,
think I just
my
ranted for a little bit.
concern,
So.
my concern mostly with firearms and learning and being effective with a firearm is a couple realities, right? There's a few things that are just facts that we just need to understand that they just are. One, guns have been invented. You
Yes.
will never uninvent them. They will
Mhm.
always be there and they will always be around. Even if you take every gun and you melt it, there will still be somebody who has the ability to recreate and reproduce that on their own. And sometimes, I mean, shit, people, they're even 3D printing guns now and crazy shit like
Mhm.
that, right? But you don't need anything special. You need a pipe, you need a bullet, you need something to hit the primer, and you're good to go, right? It's not that hard. Go on any YouTube tutorial about how to make one, and they're all over the place. But after teaching for so long, right? I mean, fuck, I taught 2 decades. I mean, McDojoLife as a full time job has only been for 3 years for me. And every other thing that I've ever done for money has been to be a martial arts instructor, to be an assistant instructor, to be in the area of martial arts. And what I noticed was not so much the people who were able bodied, but I noticed that how many people were not able bodied who were going to martial arts classes to learn how to defend themselves. And they had a very rough truth to deal with, which
Mhm.
is No matter how much martial arts you do, you're still fucked.